Welcome to the Amner Martinez podcast, a Des Moines, Iowa local-centric podcast. Since 2019, I've had the privilege and honor to speak with local politicians, chefs, musicians, athletes, authors, and more. In the 2025 season, we want you to walk away from this podcast knowing our local people in a different light and seeing them from different angles than you're used to. So stick around for interesting conversations. Welcome back, everyone. Did you know that city council elections are sometimes won by 50 votes? A lot of people do not vote in the local elections, midterm elections, and that sometimes is more important than the presidential elections. So I sat with Rob Barron, the city councilman that's running for the ward that I live in, Ward 1 here in Des Moines, Iowa. So this is a very important conversation. A lot of people will tell you the same thing. Have coffee, go meet with your city councilman, find out who they are. They have, as you'll hear from Rob, almost a budget of $1 billion that they can move and allocate, among many other things. And Rob is the right person to educate us on this. So I'm doing my part, I think, by sitting down and asking him questions. And I would advise that you do the same. The elections are coming up, and let's do our civil duty. So here's Rob Barron. Your dad ran for city council.
He did.
In the 70s, right?
1979.
1979.
Yeah, the year I was born, he was running. Yeah.
But he didn't win.
He did not.
He didn't win. So,
Nope.
but why are you running? Like, why? I know you ran last time. What's keeping you in the run?
Yeah. It's, a lot of it comes down to just like how we do government, right? Like, I've been fortunate my whole life to be involved in some way or shape or form. Like, I was on the school board for 8 years. I love that. I got to work for Tom Harkin for 13 years. I love that. And like, I got to be involved in a system I thought cared about me, right? And where I thought I could do good things for people. And so I'm always going to sign up, whether it's, volunteering or running for something. I'm always going to be somebody that feels like I'll give back. And then I watch this council right now, and they're all, fine people. They're nice people individually, but there's blind spots. Like, they miss a lot in this community, I feel like, and they're too, I think, trusting of their kind of their inner circle, which happens when you've been there. Like, a lot of them have been there for 10, 15, 20 years.
I see.
And you just need to mix it up, and you need to get new voices in there. You need to get people with different lived experiences in there, people that are going to have more connection to other parts of our community. And that is, and if you do that, then other people can have the experience I've had, where I felt validated when I've raised my hand and been in there. But a lot of that comes back to like the people we put in elected office. So
it's kind of like a graduation of, like, somebody goes in there with good intentions, good energy, and then eventually it starts to get, their world starts to get too closed up then, and then they stop listening to like the people. Yeah.
So, all right. So one of the doors I knocked happened to be over in the Drake neighborhood. So it's probably like a professor or somebody. And he starts talking to me about something called the Iron Law of Oligarchy. I guess it was a paper that was written, I don't know, sometime in like the first half of the 20th century. And the guy basically said, in democratic institutions, the longer that people are in their positions, the more oligarchic they become. So the more that they become reliant upon their people that they hear most often. So I can like reflect back on 8 years on the Des Moines School Board. And the longer I was there, who are the voices I heard most often? Superintendent, his cabinet, teachers union, AFSCME. Like, there are certain voices you're gonna see them at every meeting. There are people you're gonna talk to, and so somebody comes in from outside and says, "Hey, listen, the sky is not blue.
Right.
It's green. right?
Uh-huh.
How much harder do they have to work if the superintendent's telling me, no, the sky's blue? How much harder do they have to work? And that was just in 8 years. And I'm pretty self-aware.
Sure.
If you've been there for 15, 20 years and you naturally are going to build a good working relationship with the people that are around you. But the downside is then, are you going to be more critical of the stuff they're going to say? Are you going to ask harder questions? You can be comfortable saying no.
Because now it becomes more like colleagues.
Yes.
And not a representative of the sector.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, we all have different perspectives. We all see the world differently. Even if you're, just because you're in a position doesn't mean that you're neutral or that you represent everybody. So city manager, fine, but like not going to know everything that's going on. And so you need to have colleagues up there on that council that are going to push back and are going to have support to push back. And that's how you ultimately get to, I think, a more inclusive truth.
What are the biggest, I guess, duties or that the city council has that are the most impactful, you think?
Yeah.
Like top 5 or something.
Yeah. I mean, it starts with the budget. So city budget is almost $1 billion a year. And it's taxpayer dollars. $1 billion. So $970 million. So every year, the council has to approve that budget. They have a ton of hearings. They spend a lot of time in the public eye talking about different parts of the budget and having the department heads come up and talk about them so that those conversations can happen in the public eye so that you can hear them and you can understand, okay, these are the investments that they're making. These are the things they're cutting and why they're cutting it. And so that's the most important thing that the council is going to do. But then underneath all of that, what does that budget fund, right? It funds public safety, police and fire, emergency services. It pays for your streets, upkeep of, streets, traffic lights, all that kind of stuff. Right now, housing is an incredibly important issue in our community, and the homelessness crisis is very real for us.
Yes.
Your council's responsible for that. Your council has responsibility for, other basic services that we're going to rely on that we think about. And so, if you think about, like a liquor permit, for instance, you open a restaurant down the street, you want to serve alcohol, you have to get that permit. The last decision maker on that
is the city council.
The city council. Yeah. So there's a lot of these things that come back to your city council. And the cool thing about it is, for you, I'm the most, assuming I get in, I'm the most accessible member of government for you.
Right.
Because I live in your neighborhood. My cell phone number is online. My email address is online. You call me, you say, hey, listen, here's the thing. If I don't show up, you vote me out 4 years later. There's no big PAC that's going to underwrite my campaign. If I don't show up and do the job, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing that people, because there's a lot of non-voters. How many non-voters is there compared to voters?
So that's a really good question. So last year, presidential election, in Iowa, 64% of people voted. In a good year, in a municipal election like this in 2025, maybe 20% of the people vote.
Ooh, so there's a lot of people that sit out these city council elections, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what the disparity is, right? Like that people think that voting for president is the only way to impact, to make an impact, or Congress. But the closer, what I've been learning this last few years, just kind of meeting with you and getting to know you and just getting to know people in the community that run, it's like, no, the closer you get to your community elections, that's the quicker impact.
It is.
In your actual daily lives, right?
Yeah, because you can come to me and say, here's this thing that's happening on my block. What can we do about it? right? And that's a real tangible difference right now. Like, we hear about all the national stuff, right? Because news coverage, when there's an election, they just beat us down with ads and all of that stuff because there's billions of dollars behind those campaigns. These campaigns are not, right? Most of the campaign is me going out and knocking on doors and asking people, hey, what's going on in your life? What should I be thinking about? And so that's how you get the vote out. But I can only talk to so many people, right? I could talk to several thousand between, when I started and when the election day is. But that's not enough to get that voter turnout to be so high. And people also don't necessarily know. This is really interesting. Like, people are like, hey, Rob, what are people telling you when you knock on their door? And you know what the most common thing I hear is?
What is that?
I'm just worried about this country. It's just like their eyes get a little wider. Sometimes they'll be like, my spouse says I watch too much cable news. And they'll say, like, I just don't know where, I don't know where we're going. I'm worried about, could have been free speech. ICE, it could be anything. And it's not just liberals either. Like, everybody's like, I don't understand how we're ever going to get anything done anymore. And so we just have that conversation, and I bring it back to, like, local issues.
Yes.
I have a guy I would honestly consider a mentor. His name's Rich Harwood, and he's been running this institute, and he's been doing work across the country in communities, like just helping them, like, kind of get momentum. And he's developed these mantras, and the one that I always repeat back to people is, you have to start small to go big. If the problems of the world seem bigger than you can affect, what are the things you can put your hands around here at home? What's the first step in getting there? And then who can you work with? Because ultimately, if we can work together on stuff, that's how we build trust, that's how we build momentum. But we're not going to do it if we're like, well, listen, we need to fix Social Security. It's like,
right.
know?
It's this, like,
it's too big,
gigantic,
right?
Yeah.
And then what happens, right? You get stuck staring at the big problem that you can't affect instead of finding the thing that you can. And I think in this country, you made this point about, hey, how much do people vote? We're so fixated on these big national things instead of all the little things that we can affect that are really meaningful, right? Get a sidewalk. I have a close friend. She just got brick sidewalks redone on her block. She went out, she found local money, she got help from the city. She went door to door, and they just celebrated with this block party, and they have these beautiful brick sidewalks.
Yeah.
Listen, is that going to lead the news? No, but it's, this is something real, and then it's physical. It's right there. They can see it. Like, that we did this together.
Yeah.
That stuff matters.
So it is, like, just kind of focus on what you can actually do instead of being disillusioned. Because so there's non-voters, right? They sit out, only come out with when the general election, and then there's the disillusioned voter that they're like, nothing matters.
Right.
My vote doesn't count. Nothing changes.
It's just politics.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what have you found to be most effective to, like, get those people to go that actual day? Because we were talking right off camera that, like, there's good energy, but how does that energy turn into an actual vote?
Yeah, it was all just song and dance if nobody comes down and votes for me, right?
Yeah.
Then it's just good cardio for 6 months. But
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think I've always felt this way, and it's the way I try and practice politics and my own self, and it's the guidance I try to give people, is just be the truest version of yourself. So I got, my wife and I work full time. We've got 2 kids, 7 and 12. They're little. My wife's out of town right now as we're talking. Like, I'm figuring out who's going to be where and how I'm going to get them and all that kind of stuff. And that's my life right now. Well, I've also, for the last 8 or 9 years, been spending time on boards trying to address childcare in our community because it's a huge thing. So one of the things that I do You asked me about what issues does city council do.
Right.
Well, most people would tell you, I have opponents that would tell you city council can't do anything on childcare. It's not true. City council hasn't done anything on childcare, but we could. And I have very much lived experience on this and a lot of real experience of having worked to try and affect it. So when I go out and talk to people, I just tell them who I am. I tell them how I see the world, and then I talk about some things. And maybe we match up, maybe we don't, right? But they can see me, and they can and honestly, a lot of parents, with kids like my kids' age that are working, nobody's ever come to their door and talked about, hey, here's some ideas about how we can make childcare more accessible in our community. And that's the type of stuff that gets people engaged, gets them motivated. You're talking about things that matter in their lives.
Yeah. Do you think that, I mean, potholes are important, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. I've already been like calling and getting potholes fixed just when I was out talking to people.
So, but do you think it's for a city council person to run on that? I think it is. It's effective.
Yeah. I think that's how, a lot of people get in, right? Hey, I fixed this thing that you called me to fix.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I try and describe it this way. Like all my time, again, being in elected office or observing it, elected office is a pretty simple game. 50% of it is you got to show up. You call me and you say there's a pothole on 50th Street. Real life. I go knock on this guy's door. Literally, like he just didn't stop talking for 15 minutes just about the quality of the streets. To the point where I was like, buddy, I'm not in yet.
Yeah.
But then he was like, yeah, around the corner from me, there's a pothole so deep you could see the brick through. And I was like, okay, I got to go see this. So I walk around, I go see it. There it is. Yeah, it really was. And I put it in through the city app. They filled it. But half of your elected official job is I show up at your door, we have a conversation, you tell me here's a problem, and I do something about it. And we have a council that's very good at that. They show up, they go to neighborhood meetings, they're very responsive. But the problem here, the other half that I'm trying to fill in and trying to give people the ability to vote on is I want our council also to give us a vision for where we're going to be 20 years from now. I want to be talking about if you do this, if you come along with me, if you make this small sacrifice, we're going to do this. Because I don't really believe that we have this well understood or unified idea of where Des Moines is going to be in a generation. And if you think about it, that's what's going to keep people here, right? Like this idea that this is where we're going. Not just that, but then you and I had a conversation, right? And you helped inform that. And I came and talked to you about it. And so it wasn't just me saying, here's where we're going, but it was all of us coming along. And so half of it is just the people that we get to elect saying, hey, here's where we want to go. And you getting to choose, I want that vision or I don't want that vision.
And you don't think right now there is one?
I don't believe, I will tell you, I've been asking this question for months now, and we have 20 house parties across the ward. I've gone to 30 neighborhood association meetings. I've knocked people's doors, and I asked this. I just said, "What's the vision for where Des Moines is going to be 20 years from now?" And it's blank stare.
Yeah.
I don't think, if there is one, I do not think it is well understood, and I don't think it has come from a grassroots, organic place where people are consulted.
Yeah. Because so, are you talking about these budgets that? So does the city council, can they create programs, right? Not legislation. This is just local ordinances and local programs.
Yeah.
That they can allocate funds. Can they project on future budgets too? Then can they say the city council is voting for the next 10 years this monies are gonna go? Is that kind of what you're
kind of? part of it is that it doesn't even have to be that exact, right? But you could say, listen, it just came out just recently that per census data, the city of Des Moines lost population from last year to this year.
Okay.
And if you go back 10 years, we've only grown about 2,000 people, which is not healthy for a city this size. Part of that vision has got to be, how much do we want to grow in the next 10 years or 20 years? And if we say, listen, it's going to be healthy for this city to be a city of, go from 215,000 to 250 or whatever, if we have that conversation with our community and they buy in on that goal, then that's how you then set the budget accordingly.
Right.
Okay, well, we're going to push for more dense housing options on major thoroughfares. We're going to build more condominiums, and we're going to go harder and faster on repopulating downtown and converting office buildings into housing. And, we're going to look for spaces where we can build more single-family housing. Some of the things city's doing right now, but it should be done then with a plan so that you can say, okay, well, over the next 10 years, getting back to your point about how you spend the money, over the next 10 years, then we're going to have to spend more on housing. And that means it's going to come from somewhere, and so we're going to take from here because we don't have infinite resources, but we'll spend more here to get to this goal that we've talked to the community about. That's the conversation that I want. That's the leadership that I want in this community. Because
this shrinking cities, they lose taxpayers, right? Like, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I mean, if the kind of the worry about the state of the country is the number one thing I hear, probably number two thing I hear is property taxes. We pay more property taxes in the city of Des Moines than any of our neighbors do, a higher rate. And a big part of that is because being in the capital city, you got a lot of untaxable land. You got all the government, you got all the schools, you got all the churches, you got all the nonprofits. We don't get property tax revenue from those.
Right.
So your property taxes, my property taxes are higher. And that's a hard one to unwind. But we've got to be able to then be delivering more with those resources or broadening out that tax base and finding more parcels that can be single-family homes or businesses that can generate more property tax revenue.
So would you say that a city that isn't growing is not necessarily a good thing, or does it have to grow in population?
It's not good. It's not healthy for us right now as a city. And I'll go back to, public schools. We've really fluctuated and we've gone down in public school enrollment. That's not good because then you have people whose jobs are dependent upon that enrollment being there.
Right.
And, right now the school district's going through this question of, are we going to have to take buildings offline because we don't have the enrollment to support it? Then neighborhoods might lose a school. You might be in the position of having to lay off.
It does impact, right? Like it's like there's some schools that are being closed and there's some schools that are being rebranded. There's some schools, at least there's plans for it, but and that's kind of, it circles back to how important city council and voting when your local elections is because it impacts in an immediate way what happens around us, right? And not just like focusing on the big stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, cities, the more they grow, the more people move in, the more taxpayers come in. So it grows.
Yeah. Yeah. More people are spending money in our grocery stores. More people are going to the baseball stadium. those things all then have an impact. The more people come into festivals and more vibrant our community gets because, we're present. Managing that is important. You can't go too far too fast. You got to be thoughtful about, then that's why you elect a city council because, we're kind of the last stop on a lot of those decisions.
So let's talk specific. So city council, you are running for a specific is it sector? Is that what it's called?
It's a ward, yeah.
Ward.
Yeah. Ward 1. So Ward 1 is the northwest corner of the city of Des Moines. Mm-hmm. The boundaries in these things are always kind of weird because the census data, they move them around. But basically, if you think of anything from 63rd or Merle Hay Road to the river from west to east, and anything north of either University or the interstate.
Which river? The Des Moines River? Or
going north and south. So the river, then you got Johnston up to the north.
I see.
And then like the University or the interstate on the southern border. So like the northwest chunk
of
the city of Des Moines.
I live in your ward,
yes,
right?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so because it's important. Some people don't know where their ward is.
Right. Yeah.
So you're not everybody's city council. You're just that ward's city councilman, right?
If I get elected, yes.
And then there's at large too, right?
Yeah.
Which is they kind of. What is the at large? What is the difference between?
What's the difference? So you have 7 city council members. 4 of them are elected by ward, and so this city is kind of cut up into 4 equal sections based on population. And then those sections then elect somebody that lives in their community to represent them and their needs. And then the other 3 council members, 2 of them are at-large council members, which means they're elected by the entire city. Every voter gets to vote in that election.
Okay.
And then the third is the mayor, and she's also elected by the entire city.
I see.
And so, at any given moment, you're going to be voting for 2 or 3, could be voting for 1, 2, or 3 council members at a time. So, like, if you live in Ward 1, you'll vote in my race and you'll vote in the at-large race.
I see.
And then 2 years from now, you'll vote in the other at-large race and the mayor's race.
I see.
So, you get to have a voice in who a majority of the city council is, no matter where you live. So that's important.
What are your thoughts on, was it earlier this year or last year where the city council voted for basically criminalizing homelessness in a way? I mean, that's one way to put it, I guess. Another way that they look at it is for public safety, right? Or however you want to word it, it passed and it went through. What is your take on that, and how would you have voted?
I think it's morally wrong to criminalize sleep. That's what they're doing, right? Saying, if you're sleeping in public and you're warned, you can get charged with a crime, fined. When they first started this last summer, the first proposal was a $150 fine and a misdemeanor charge.
Okay.
Now, homelessness is complex, and let's talk about that. But one thing that we can all agree on is if you're sleeping in the forest, down by the river, it's not because you have so much money that you just don't know how to spend it.
Right.
Right? So if we're serious about solving homelessness, and if we see these individuals not as a problem but as constituents, as our responsibility, then criminalizing it, fining them is not going to get them closer to stable and supportive housing. The other problem that I had with this, being that guy that, is really romantic about government, is they didn't tell anyone they were going to do this until Thursday morning before a special Monday morning meeting. And they attempted to do a thing where they waive all 3 readings. So most ordinances, a lot of the city stuff, it has to come back multiple meetings. And that's like a good thing. That's a practice that's built in to give the public more opportunity to react and sound off on things. If it's non-controversial, and most city council stuff is non-controversial, they're going to waive all 3 readings, just get it through. They're not going to need to spend time at 3 different meetings on it. This was far from non-controversial.
Right.
But they still attempted to get 6 out of 7 votes to pass this, and only give the public 3 days, really, to react. And that is another sign, I think, that they trusted their own judgment more than they trusted the feedback of their community. And so I could never support that. And I would like to repeal it, to be honest with you, when I get on the council. But I also can't imagine myself ever saying, well, okay, this is a controversial issue, and I know it's going to be controversial. The best thing to do is make sure nobody has time to talk to me about it. Right. I just can't. I just can't do that. And they aren't bad people. As council members they're public servants. They care about it. They got into the right way. But I think they trusted their own judgment too much.
Is it possible though? Is it possible that some donation money is influencing? This is kind of like an easy answer, or because I guess would giving them the benefit of the doubt that they kind of trusted their own judgment, or is there more influence there somewhere behind that money or donors or?
So you can go back. There's should probably link to it at some point in time when you post this, but the Des Moines Register did a story several months after this whole thing happened, and they got access to council email because it's public record.
Right.
And what they found is, in the months leading up to this thing coming on the agenda, there were messages back and forth between the Greater Des Moines Partnership, Principal, Ruan, the mayor, city manager, predicated along a Supreme Court ruling that allowed this thing to happen. And they knew they'd seen the arguments, and they kind of felt like the court was going to give cities the ability to do this, and so they were trying to get ready in advance. And so the circle was closed, and it was tight around those folks, and it was what they wanted. But if they knew that was what they wanted, they could have come and said, "Hey, this is what we're thinking about. This is what we're working on. These are the guys that think it's a good idea," and given the public time. Because what happened eventually is 2 of the council members voted no, and so it ended up going back for all 3 meetings, and it wasn't 3 successive meetings, so it wasn't until September, I think, when it was actually approved, and by then it had been watered down a bunch. Other things were added to it. But it was a painful process for a city to go through that, when it could have been, hey, here's a whole bunch of ideas that are on the table. What do you guys want to do? And engage the folks that were doing the work. They weren't consulted. The people that were on the ground doing the work were not consulted. It's not how we should be doing government.
Am I wrong here? Maybe I'm way off. But it gives character to the city, right? Like it gives it the vote, or the way they went about it, or like the decision. It kind of sheds light on either positive or negative on how the city, the identity of the city. Am I off here? Feels like I am, because like people say, "I want ice." Right.
Yeah.
So
no, you're not off. I mean, I think we.
Is it a moral vote? I guess maybe if that's more of a clear question.
It was for me. It was a moral thing for me, as I watched it, and that was the point where I was like, okay, I'd just done this a year before. I gotta start thinking about doing this again, because this is the stuff I was trying to keep from happening, both morally and also just in practice. And so, I think, depending on how our elected officials represent themselves and do their work, we either feel represented by them or not.
Right.
Right? And I didn't feel represented by the majority of the council. And I watched a lot of people that I liked and respected go up and advocate against this vehemently. And I knew they weren't feeling like they were being represented either. There's a better way of doing this stuff. And it's honestly, it's not necessarily about what happens, but how it happens. And my last 2 years on the school board was a pandemic. And dang, man, that was hard.
Yeah.
Right? But I never made any, I never tried to hide it that it was hard. Like, I would have conversations. I remember having like 45-minute phone conversations with parents that would call me and be like, listen, like, you need to reopen the schools, or, you know, keep them closed. And, you know, people were worried. And honestly, they just needed to talk to people. And so I would talk to them, and I would write emails back to people, hundreds a day. And it's hard to sit in the uncertainty and to realize that, like, a lot of issues, there isn't an easy answer. And that's the stuff that honestly makes me want to do it more, because I want to deal with the hard answers.
Right.
What you want to not do is elect people that are going to feel like they can make the answer easier if they just only talk to one side of the issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So transparency can also,
it makes your job
harder.
harder.
The harder it is, the more transparent you should be, just to let people know. Even if you vote against what they thought it was, like, at least I told you why my vote or why I went for it, right? Instead of just kind of.
Well, it's like it's two things, right? One is, you don't ever want your elected officials to be comfortable, because it's a hard job. There's a lot of different ways of seeing issues. You got to be able to represent them all. You got to be able to talk to everybody. If you get comfortable because you're only comfortable talking to the ones that you know are going to agree with you, you're not doing your job well enough. And that's what we have to guard against. And everybody does it, right? You know, we seek the comfort of those that agree with us.
Right.
But if you want to do what I'm trying to do right now, it's not healthy. You need to push yourself. You need to be comfortable talking to people. I go out and knock on doors. Shoot. It's a local election. Like, it's not a primary. It's not like, my party or anything like that. So I talk to everybody. And I love it.
Right.
I love it, man, because I tell them all the same stuff. And it's not like I'm going to convert somebody that disagreed with me. It's just that I want them to be able to see that I'm willing to have a conversation with them. So I might spend 20 or 30 minutes standing on somebody's front porch talking to them. If they want to talk, and if they're getting efficacy out of that, I'm there for that.
Is there any type of debate, kind of like when that will happen or that has happened?
Different local organizations will put them on. And so we've had one or two so far. We've heard from a handful of organizations that want to do them. So we have a calendar on my website. So it's robxbarron.com. And we put any public event that the campaign is having, or that I know of where I'm going to be speaking, I put that on there. Because otherwise it's kind of hard to find those things, because you have to be in the network of the entity that's going to do the thing to know what's happening. So we just try and put them all on there so people can see.
They can come and ask you questions.
Yeah.
What is, well, a couple of questions. So, like, is the city council have anything to do with the Reimagine DMPS?
Formally, no, because the school board's going to be the people that you're going to elect that are going to make the decisions there. But informally, absolutely, because there's a lot of things that a city council can do that can make a city more friendly to families. And if it's a city that is friendly to families and constructed to serve families well, then your school district's going to be better off for that, right? And so, I think probably in the construction of that plan, the city had some voices in there.
Sure.
But as a council member, especially coming from school board background, like there's a lot of things that can help families. I was talking about childcare a few minutes ago, right? Like, there's issues like that are not the school district's responsibility, but do directly impact the quality of life of families that we can take on.
Right.
And that's the type of stuff where, as they start figuring out what this district is transforming into, like we can be, right by their side, doing things like, addressing the safety of the streets and sidewalks around the school. Transportation safety, that's the city's responsibility.
Right.
We've got to work well with them. So, making sure that it's not just driving, but walking and biking, that you can get safely to your school. We want that. And there's things that we could do. There's, the city has responsibility for those investments. They happen very slowly, honestly. We're kind of cash strapped, but better prioritizing those investments so that families can walk their kid to school, when it's not below zero.
Is there anything, before we continue on the Reimagine DMPS, is there anything that you could, any allocations of funds that you think the city kind of like, they could have moved that, they could have used that money better?
If it was spent on something for the school district?
No, not the school district, but just something when the city approved the budget that was kind of misused, or just like waste. Like that was not needed, or like that could have been better here. Yeah.
I think a lot about how our city uses its property tax income or writes it off. So one of the ways in which the city spends money, or basically spends money by not taking it back in, is abating property taxes for certain homes or businesses. And over the summer, when Wells Fargo sold their campus downtown, one of the points in that story is that the city had an agreement to abate the property taxes of that campus, and it was a little over $20,000, between $20,000 and $25,000 a year, that the city was basically saying, listen, as long as you stay there and you bring employees downtown, we'll write down those taxes for you. And obviously for Wells Fargo, that wasn't sufficient economically to keep them there. They closed that, sold it, moved everybody out to West Des Moines. If elected, I want to really push a conversation about whether, pushing all of that tax abatement to those large companies downtown is the right move, or whether we can actually have an impact in our local communities. So, like, you could take that $25,000, and I was just thinking about, this is one of the things I talk about with childcare. You could spread that around and abate the property taxes of 5 home child care providers for a year.
Right.
And then say, as a deal, then you have to serve families from Des Moines. Serve just kids in Des Moines. And you could build up that child care base. Well, what happens then? Well, the woman who I talked to on 47th Street, who told me that she's an engineer, and when she and her husband did the math when she was pregnant and decided that there's no difference between her staying home financially and her working and paying for childcare, maybe that starts to change the math on that, right? And then there's somebody else that's in the workforce, and then our workforce gets stronger. And I feel like that's one of those things that businesses are looking for when they come here, is they look for a strong workforce. Well, let's do what we can as a city in little ways that aren't necessarily about cutting a big ribbon, but little ways that we can make people's lives better.
Right. And this ties into like the I'm saying it right, Reimagine DMPS?
Yeah.
Is because it's going to be on the ballot this coming this November, right?
Yeah, this is the same day that I get elected. Same ballot. Yeah.
Right. So so the question will be, will you support? What is the question, if you don't mind me?
Yeah. So the question is, first of all, it's a very long question.
Okay. Or like,
It's like a paragraph, basically.
Okay.
So don't go there in a hurry. But it basically says, listen, over the next 5 years, we want to pass this bond, which taxpayers will pay for through their property taxes, that will generate $265 million over 5 years. And it would be spent, and this is why it's it's a paragraph, because they have to list out every school that it will be spent on, and then it would be spent on every single school. Redoing buildings, like, trying to bring them up to, the current. A couple buildings would come down, and some would be rebuilt. But basically investing in the brick and mortar of a public school district.
Des Moines Public Schools.
At Des Moines, yeah. And I could tell you from my time on Des Moines Public Schools, the last thing you pay for when you feel like you're able to hire people to be in your buildings and feed kids and have school buses, and then the last thing that if whatever money you have left over is facilities.
Right.
But in this era, public schools don't have that much money.
Right.
And so they don't want to be in this position of going out to their community, but they have to, if they're going to be able to then keep up with this, Waukee and West Des Moines, all the suburbs, all the things they're doing.
Yeah, because the suburbs are booming. They're building new high schools, and in Des Moines Public Schools, they're losing students. Enrollment is low.
Yeah.
So something has to happen, right? Something has to happen. And one or two of those schools are in Ward.
Many, actually.
The ward that you're running for, right?
Yeah.
The ward that I live in.
Yeah.
So you're for it then?
I am. Yeah, without a doubt. I'm 100% for this. I actually, when they were getting the signatures, because they had to get like 7,000 signatures from people in the school district to get on the ballot. And that was happening at the same time I was getting my signatures to get on the ballot. I just got a couple of their petitions and put them with mine, and I'd go and I'd knock people's doors, and I'd say,
you were killing two birds with one stone.
Well, and I would just say, yeah, listen, here's, I'm running for this, and they'd say, okay, I'll sign your petition. I say, well, before you give me that clipboard back, flip over, let me talk to you about this bond initiative. So I was getting signatures for that too, because I want what's best for my school district.
And it was supposed to be more, but then 250 something was.
Yeah, it was supposed to be 10 years and $500 million. And I think the board decided that they wanted to kind of scale it back a bit. Yeah.
So what's your pitched for people to vote for you? Like, what's the one that what's the main thing you want people to take away for them to like get off the couch and like go vote and and vote for you?
So I start by saying, listen, we're way overdue for some new leadership, some new voices, a new perspective. Whether it's local government or anything, stuff's not working right now, and we can do better. I would be a change on this council. I'm one of only 2 council members with kids in the school district right now. I'd be the first Latino council member in the history of the city. Back to 46 years ago when my dad tried, and all through. We haven't gotten anybody on. So I'd bring some more informed perspective about our largest minority group in the city. But I also bring, even though I'm new and younger and than typical for this, I have a lot more experience than I think than anybody that I'm running against. Like, I'm the only one that's served in government already. Just finished a few terms on United Way's board of directors. been very involved with Polk County Early Childhood Iowa's board and Mid-Iowa Health Foundation's board. I know a lot of the issues of the city. I've walked all these streets. I know these folks. And that's important because Ward 1 has actually had 3 council members serve it over the last 4 years. And I would be the 4th in a little over 4 years that's been in this spot. So having some consistency, somebody that we can trust that, can show up and hit the ground running is really important.
Well, I appreciate you doing what you're doing. I mean, it's not like a lucrative, high-paying job, right? Like, and that's what makes it hard for good people to run to, is because it's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work, a lot of door knocking.
It is, yeah.
One Sunday, I think it was, or Saturday, we were having a garage sale, and there you came, randomly coming up, and I was like, "Hey, Rob," and so there's a lot of work that comes behind, and I couldn't be more thankful that you represent my ward. So we'll have to do it again. Hopefully you win. I wish you the best, and
thank you.
And we'll have to talk after that and see how it'll turn out.
Let me tell you, man, I appreciate that. You're a good friend. You mean a lot to me. It was fun to be able to go and see y'all having a party out on the street when I was out knocking doors. And, if I'm going to work my butt off until this thing gets done. But if all goes well, and you'll keep seeing me out, keep seeing me in your neighborhoods, talking to people, because, that's how we get better at it. You can't, if I get elected, I get elected because I got to channel that vision of my community into government, right? But I can't do that if I'm not actively talking to y'all.
Right.
And so I won't stop for the next 4 years. And I'll just keep talking to you all and keep learning, trying to get better. And I just grateful for the opportunity to sit down and talk to you today, man. It's good to see you.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure. So thank you again, and we'll see everybody next time.